Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend, Publish, and Lead, and welcome to episode 138, AI and Scholarly Writing Support. This episode is part of the 2023 Big Rhetorical Podcast Carnival. It's in its fourth year running, and these collections of podcasts focus on writing issues and a topic for the year. So this particular topic is on the role of AI on applications and trajectories. And I know our area that we're looking at today on our particular podcast is just the effects of AI on scholarly writing support and some ways to think through these issues. So where I got the idea for this episode is not just the carnival topic, but also because we've definitely had some questions about if scholarly writing support or coaching is still needed in an age of AI. So for example, one of the reasons people might come to us or try to work with our services is because they need help drafting a scholarly article or working through a dissertation chapter or a book manuscript or something like that. And I just did an interview about this where the question posed was, are these services even needed? If you can use something like ChatGPT to write your scholarly article, why would you need to hire a writing coach and use support? And so I wanted to talk about this from two sides of the spectrum, because I think maybe people might believe that writing coaching from rhetoric and composition specialists, which is the group that's probably listening to the Rhetorical Podcast Carnival and all of the episodes. I think it's easy to say that, we might automatically be against something like artificial intelligence. And quite the contrary, I think Defend, Publish, and Lead has taken a pretty nuanced position because there are places where certainly it can help with scholarly writing support, and then other places where maybe it won't be able to. So I thought I'd talk through a couple of those things today. And for audio listeners only, I did make a quick slide just to show a few things, but I'll describe what's on screen and, of course, put links in the show notes as we always do. So one of the things I wanted to start with was that many of our episodes have actually talked about AI tools and how we use these for scholarly writing support. So for those of you not familiar with Defend, Publish, and Lead, this company was founded by Beth Hewitt back in 2009. She's a longtime rhetoric and composition person and still past president and owner of the company. And, even from that point on, when we were supporting writers very early on in the beginning of the company, writers were using all sorts of tools to assist them with writing. And so I know some that we've talked about on the podcast and have sometimes had as podcast sponsors and, definitely used as tools with our own clients would include things like Scholarcy. I've mentioned that one before. It's an AI tool that basically summarizes a scholarly article and makes flashcards for you. One of the reasons I know that I had recommended that was because I used it myself with some of my graduate students, where we kind of decided, how do we know if we need to read a source in depth or not? And that tool was one of the ways where we decided, when you have to make decisions about writing time and how much time to devote to reading, one of the things I had them do was sort of sort articles into three groups. So one was articles that you only needed for one thing. Maybe you needed it for a confirmation, you needed it for a piece of background, maybe there was just one reason for source support. And we have an essay or an episode about that particularly, so I'll link to that in the show notes. You might need it for something that is a little bit more in depth, where maybe it's something that's providing a methodology that you might need to recap. But, a third grouping might be a source that's really, really in tune with your research. It's going to be one of, the major sources you lean on. And Scholarcy was a great tool for helping us kind of figure out, is this article really about my topic? Is it just giving us, one piece of something I need? That was great, because the time that it would take and the scholarly labor that it would take for students to sort through all those articles, or for me, quite honestly, sorting through all those articles, it just, there just isn't enough time to do it all. So I will occasionally use Scholarcy for something like that when I know I can't tell from reading an article abstract and reading, a little bit of the introduction. I can't yet tell if I need this article or not. Scholarcy and tools like it are ones that I will use to kind of decide, all right, if this is going to make me some flashcards, one of the things that it will do is sort by the sections of the articles. It breaks things down into bulleted points. I'm much faster as a reader skimming through some points that are in bullets versus long paragraphs of prose. So That's something that we've been recommending all along. I also use Research Rabbit, so that's one of the tools that's showing on the screen. Certainly to find new research and other articles where you can use one article and then build from that, or you can look by topic and look at groupings of articles based on citations and links between citations. Another tool, definitely we've been recommending, we've been using it for many years. There's lots of tools like it. I know that one that some of our writers in the sciences are using is one called CITE, SCITE. And so one of these things here was actually trying to find a citation to prove a claim that you are either looking for, like you just want to see if this article or a claim that was made is actually backed up by research, or you need it to back your own claims. So all of these sources have been ones that we've, recommended. We know our clients are using. These are not yet the same things as having AI do scholarly writing. So this is, I think, where, it seems that many academics are more willing to accept scholarly or AI work or AI support tools in the area of research and reading, but less so in the area of writing, where it gets more dicey about your own voice and things like that. And so one of the articles that really caught my eye a little while ago, this just happened in the spring, but there is a person named Mushtaq Bilal who posts on Twitter a lot about AI and scholarly writing. And he provides a Twitter post in there about how he trained ChatGPT to think like a Stanford professor. And he talks about how he didn't just go dumping ideas into ChatGPT. He had to put lots of things in it to start looking at his project and be able to read the project that he had and provide feedback on it. And to me, this is a very interesting idea. He's got a lot of posts on how to use AI. I know he does speaking engagements and things like that on there. So I know some people said, well, he's got a vested interest in AI, and that may be. But one of the things that I liked about this particular article is that it kind of showed some of the nuances that, you might be using ChatGPT not just for writing, but to actually get support and feedback on your writing. And so what I mean by that is that when we do scholarly writing, one of the great things about live, like face-to-face live coaching, non-AI responses, is that you're actually talking to a real person. You can talk in real time, that the conversation can shift and understand nuance and things in a human voice. So I just had this discussion with one of our writing coaches that they were doing a Zoom call with a client, so that they could see the client on Zoom, the client could see them, and as they were talking through this person's work on screen, the coach could hear in the client's voice that the client was very hesitant. Now that's something that if we just typed in ChatGPT or any of the other tools, that nuance may not be picked up, that there's hesitancy. And so what happened with this exchange between the coach and the client was that the coach picked up right away that this client was not real sure about this particular argument. And what it turned out to be is that the client was actually not real sure about the project itself. And it wasn't that they weren't sure about their ideas, they weren't sure they wanted to do it. They were, they were thinking they really liked this other direction. So a lot of that nuance in the human voice, I just don't think could be replicated by some of these AI tools. Can they get you to a certain level? Sure. Could they help, write a run of the mill kind of perfunctory article? Probably. And people have already been doing it. And in fact, we do have some clients that will come to us with articles written in ChatGPT, and then they'll ask for us to kind of, I always say the word judge them up and make them sound like not ChatGPT, which we will not do. We have already turned down those projects. But it's one of those things that I think it's there's those nuances in getting writing support and writing feedback that we might not have with AI, or at least not yet. So here's another scenario. One of the things that I know has been very helpful for faculty writers that are struggling and may want to turn to AI as sort of like an easy fix is that when we offer workshops for universities on some of these issues, and for the record, if anybody needs us to come out to do workshops, we're happy to do them. We've been doing a lot of them lately because AI is such an issue with scholarly writing. But one of the things that we try to do is we try to think about where are the pieces that you might be able to use AI in a time efficient manner and in a way that you're still able to convey your interests, your research results, your voice, if a personal voice is part of the academic register for your discipline. So we do try to look at that way and try to think about how we can use some of these tools to help with the academic research and writing process. Other tools that have been around for a while, I don't have this one on screen, but for example, Helen Sword's Writer's Diet is one that we've talked about before. If you look at Helen Sword and Writer's Diet, this is a tool where you dump in your writing and then it basically maps out for you. It shows you a little basically a little grid that shows how many prepositions you have and things like that. That's something that maybe is not on the sophistication level of some of these other tools, but it's already an AI tool that's reading academic writing and then saying something about it and providing peer, some type of feedback. So, with something like that, that can get you to a certain point, but what it can't do is replicate a conversation, maybe a personal conversation with another scholar where another scholar says, you know what, even though this tool says this one sentence is too wordy, I really like it because it sounds like you when you are presenting at a conference, or it sounds like the way this journal likes to have their sentences set up. So some of those nuances just aren't captured yet in AI that could be captured through scholarly writing. So, to close with this, I think where we are with scholarly writing in terms of academic writing coaching is a big field. It's filled with psychologists. It's filled with writing scholars. It's definitely filled with book publishers. It's a big field out there, and so where we come in as far as a company that focuses on writing coaching from a rhetoric and composition background. All of our coaches are PhD trained in rhetoric and composition. We all focus on writing studies. Many of us have been or are WPAs, writing center directors. So we're looking at this on multiple levels, not just in our own writing, but certainly in the writing that we now have our graduate students or our undergraduate students do in our composition and, MAs and rhetoric and writing programs. So thinking through some of these issues, at least the way that I'm trying to think about it to present not just to this community, but to my own students, is really to look at it along those lines where, some of these tools certainly can help with part of the process, but they're never going to be able to replicate, or at least I shouldn't say never, because that's probably not true, but let's just say right now, I don't believe they can replicate some of the aspects of, say, a live peer feedback process, which would be one of the benefits to doing writing coaching or having a colleague look at your work. Now, this Mushtaq Bilal that does these posts, one of the reasons that his posts have become really popular is that he has mentioned, certainly scholars in, say, the Global South or in other communities don't have access to have somebody to have this scholarly exchange with. So this is one of the ways that they're able to participate. And I think this is a valid point. But just when we think through, what the implications are for writing, one of the things we try to do, going back to, say, first year writing or thinking about that, is trying to get students to understand how to write independently and not write leaning so heavy on models and tools and all that kind of stuff. And I know that, first year composition instructors are certainly struggling with this because many of our assignments could be completed by ChatGPT many times over, and the service is now good enough with a couple of tweaks, it's very likely they wouldn't be caught. So what that means is that, there has to be things that students will be more engaged with writing. And this is the same with faculty, I think, because a faculty member under pressure that needs to complete work, those are the faculty, they're not all the faculty that come to us, but they're about a third of our business, our faculty that are about to not get tenure. They keep getting articles rejected. They just hate to write. They have writer's block. These are some of the same things that we see with undergraduate students where maybe, they're struggling with writing or they hate to write. And so many of the things that we try to do is work through having habits that make writing, if not totally satisfying and pleasurable, at least okay, that it feels okay to do this. It can be something that they can do. And this is difficult. I don't think an AI tool at the moment can teach something like this. So I know we have strategies that we do it with us, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody wanting to talk more about that. But I just think in the short term, it does remain to be seen, how faculty writing support can play out using these AI tools. So we're looking forward to having you continue the conversation with us. Please check out the other episodes in the podcast Carnival. I know we'll be tweeting about them. For the record, we do use Twitter at the moment still, but LinkedIn is becoming more of our primary home. So we encourage you to follow us there. Also, as you're listening to this episode, we are just about ready to start our 4-week job series about how to write job documents. So if you're on the market, writing cover letters, doing DEI statements, decoding job ads. For those of you listening to this, you're probably in writing studies. It will be run by Dr. Lillian Mina, so one of our writing studies specialists. So she's going to be presenting this material for us. And I know the workshop last year was very popular. We had lots of people land positions. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can always check out all of our events on Eventbrite and look for Defend, Publish, and Lead. I'll also put a link in the show notes. And thanks for listening. Happy writing this week.